Hey guys, it's Georgia, and in this video I'm going to go over all of my settings for my Canon EOS M. I'm not going to cover Magic Lantern or CineStyle, so this is definitely for people who don't have those on their camera and just want to go into the menu settings themselves and go through every single page. Also, there are timestamps in the description if you just want to skip ahead to certain parts. I don't know if I'll just write everything out in the description of what my settings are. Maybe that'll just be easier. If I do, that's there too. If I don't, then just jump ahead to different points of the video. First thing you want to make sure is that your dial is turned to the video camera. So when I turn my camera on, this is the first thing that pops up. This is what my LCD screen looks like. If you click on this icon in the upper left corner, you'll see I have two options. First one is movie auto exposure or movie manual exposure. And I leave it on manual so I have more creative control, and as it explains it to you here, what that mode is for. So now that that's selected, I'm gonna go back. Next, I have this Q icon in the upper right corner. And what you'll see is it gives you kind of a quick rundown of basic video options, it seems like. So starting with autofocus, I typically leave mine as FlexZone Multi. You have the option of tracking, which will focus on faces or subjects, or you have using a single point. But I typically just use it on autofocus multi. Anyway, I'm using it manually, so the autofocus doesn't work when I'm using one of my Canon FD lenses. All right, next option is image quality, and I choose this L with the pie slice. If you can see it, you've got these other ones that'll tell you like what the picture size looks like, and I just go with this one, which is 5184 by 3456. Next is the video recording, which is I use 1920 by 1080 at 24 frames per second. You can go up to 30 frames per second if you want to do slow-mo. If you want to do 60 frames per second, it's going to drop your resolution, but I just leave it at 1920 by 1080. All right, this next one is video snapshot. I just leave it off. I don't use this one. Next is white balance. I usually use one of the presets. It's just based on wherever I'm shooting, whether I'm indoors or outdoors, or if it's sunny or cloudy. So you can do presets. You can also do auto white balance, which I don't recommend because it's just probably gonna change the color of your scene as your lighting changes. You can also do custom white balance, which is just taking a picture of a white surface and then using that to set your white balance, but I think I usually just use this white fluorescent presetting. Next one is picture style, which is all the different like coloring options. So if you look, you'll see I have it in monochrome. Right now, my main one is the CineStyle, which I talked to you guys about in the first Canon EOS M video. There's auto. If you go back here, you have faithful. Monochrome. Yeah, CineStyle. There are some other ones. I think there's like standard. There's neutral. If you don't have CineStyle, or you can't, if you're having trouble putting it on your Canon, then you can definitely use neutral and adjust the settings how you like it. Auto lighting optimizer, I just leave that off. You just never know if it's gonna mess with the image while you're filming, so I just leave it disabled. I don't want any auto settings interfering while I'm filming. So that's just like the quick menu. So let's go into the main menu, and you'll see all these different options at the top, and they all have different colors. So the first ones are all red, then you've got blue, and then you've got yellow. But let's take it from the top. So for my image quality, I choose large, which is the L with the pie slice. If you click into it, you have all these different options, and I think the 8 is the megapixels. You can also do raw. Oh no, can I not do raw here? Oh yeah, there it is. You can also do raw, but I don't see the point. It's really up to you, but I leave it at L. And just hit OK here or on the button. Your grid display is for what shows up on my screen. If you go back here, you'll see how I have this 3x3. That's for composition and making my shots. I just leave it at 3x3. You can have more if you want. So I leave mine at grid 1. Histogram display, I leave it disabled just because it places really weird on the screen. If you like click that and then you go click out of it. There. So there's a histogram. As you see, it's kind of put in a really weird position, so I find it really distracting. So I just leave my histogram disabled. The release shutter without card, I leave it off. That's a feature that Canon put in so people could take demo pictures with the camera without a memory card needing to be inside. So I guess, if they wanted to test it out while they're in the store. Image review, I leave it at 2 seconds, and that's if you've taken a photo with the camera, how long it holds before it goes back to the regular screen. So I just leave it at 2 seconds. So in the next menu, autofocus is on Flexi Zone. Let's see. Yeah, my autofocus is on Flexi Zone Multi, which I talked about before. For lens aberration correction, I actually leave it enabled. So it's set like that. Yeah. It's menu. All right, next page. Exposure compensation, I leave it at 0, just keep it even. For ISO speed, I leave it at 100. For auto lighting optimizer, I leave it off. And this was in the quick menu, I believe, which again is just an auto setting that I don't want to have it on just in case it messes with the images I get. Metering timer, I leave at 16 seconds. Next page, you have custom white balance. So if you go in here, you would, what you would have done is taken a picture of a white surface and then you would use that to set your custom white balance. For the white balance shift bracket, I leave that at 0, so it's right in the center. Hit there. So for picture style, I use user-defined 1, which is the CineStyle. If you have trouble getting that onto your EOS M, neutral would be the next best thing. If you click detail settings down here, then you can go in and customize your neutral settings. And I think I had done that the first time before I had downloaded CineStyle. So if you go back, and if I even go to my CineStyle, as you can see, my settings are adjusted there as well. So I'll leave that up to you, really. I have the sharpness turned all the way down. Contrast is all the way down. Saturation, you could say -1. And color tone, I leave it at 0. So going back, and I just hit set again. On the next page, this is like your movie setting recordings. So I leave it at 1920 by 1080, 24 frames per second. I set my sound recording at manual so I can turn the levels all the way down. And if you go here, see, you can move it, but I just leave it turned down just in case I ever plug my my Rode video mic into it and want to vlog with this. This is to keep noise out, so I hit set. Wind filter, I leave it disabled. I try to leave as much of the stuff disabled because even though it's trying to help, it probably interferes more with your manual settings. So I leave wind filter, attenuator disabled. So go back to menu. Video snapshot disabled. Movie servo autofocus, I leave that enabled. Yeah, using external microphone will reduce the amount of lens drive noise recorded. I just leave that. Auto focus with shutter button during video, I leave that turned off, and I think that's mainly because I use other lenses and adapted to this camera, and so when you have other lenses adapted, you can't even use the autofocus, so there's really no point in me having it on. All right, this next section, the blue, this is all about, I think, when you take pictures and how you want to review them on the camera. So the blue section, I really just kind of skip over it. Let's go to the yellow. You select folder. This is the name of your folder. You can create a new one, but I just leave it. I think this is the one that it just gives you by default when you format your card, which you'll see in a second. File numbering, I leave it at continuous, and that helps me keep everything in numerical order. For auto rotate, I just leave it on. Let's see. Yeah, I just leave it on. It doesn't bother me. Format card, obviously you want to do this. Cancel. When you format your card, this is to adapt it to work specifically with the Canon EOS M. it'll wipe all of your data, but apparently it'll keep your magic lantern, if you look at it here, but you can trash to change. Oh, I didn't know it could do this. So you can format the card, keep magic lantern, it won't wipe those files off your SD card, so you can do that, but I don't need to. This card's already formatted for the EOS M. So yeah, you want to do that whenever you put a new memory card into your camera to format it for it. These are like the basic, like the camera itself settings. So power saving, that's like to turn your LCD off. Actually, I'm gonna change that because I found that really annoying when I was filming. If you don't touch the camera but you leave it on, after a minute the screen just goes blank and you have to tap it to make it show up again. So that kept happening to me and I should have changed this earlier. So I'll leave it at like 5 minutes. Let's do 3 minutes for now. So this is just a way to save power on the EOS M. Camera auto off. I'm not sure what that is actually, so I'm just gonna leave it at 1 minute. Go back to menu. LCD brightness, I just leave it right in the middle. Time zone, you set that up according to wherever you live. You set up your date and time. You pretty much do this when you get the camera brand new. I use English for my language settings, and since I'm in America, I use NTSC. If you're in Europe, I believe you use PAL. However, if you're planning to just upload videos straight to YouTube, it doesn't matter which one you use. So I'm just gonna leave it NTSC. But I guess, you know, if anyone still makes Blu-rays and DVDs, you can, the video system matters. All right, the next monkey wrench. This is like, again, basic stuff for your camera. It beeps when you touch the screen. Maybe you guys can hear that. Oh, and you can change the screen color, design here. So I leave the screen color at 1, doesn't matter. I set the beep on, or you can turn it off. I leave the feature guide on because it'll give you little explanations of what each feature does, which is really helpful for me. Touch control, I use standard. You can make it sensitive, but I'm worried that that's just gonna like make me accidentally press a button I don't want to press. Sensor cleaning, I leave it set on auto. So every time I turn the camera off, it will automatically clean the sensor. GPS device settings, GPS unit is not connected, so I don't even bother with this. It won't let you use it unless you plan to connect the GPS system to it. And the final one, displays camera settings. These are the features that show up on your LCD screen, I believe, when you're just using the camera as it is. I just leave that. I think you can change it, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, no, this is just, it just tells you stuff. Displays camera settings. Custom functions. This one is pretty interesting because let's start at page 1. So for custom functions, on this one, I leave my exposure level increments at 1/3 stop and hit OK. Let's go to page 2. ISO expansion, I leave it on. Yep, I just leave that on. Highlight tone priority, I leave it disabled. So guys, this is actually a quick tip I got from another YouTuber, Eugenia Loli, who pointed out enable D+, which is highlight priority, to get about a half step more of dynamic range in the highlights. So if you're here in custom functions, it's number 3 in the corner or number 2 image. Click and then hit enable. One thing she pointed out to me was that once you enable it, your ISO locks at 200 minimum. So let's go back to the screen and you'll see this D+ with the ISO. And you'll see I can only go as low as 200 before hitting auto. And then there's all the other ones. Now, if I go back here and I hit disable, let's go back to the screen. Then the D+ is gone and I can drop my ISO to 100. So that's a really interesting tip that I didn't know about. Thank you, Eugenia. Here's something else for you guys to try with your cameras. For autofocus assist beam, that's enabled. Oh yeah, I guess it's if you press the button, if you press the shutter button to focus, it'll turn, I think the light will flash. So you can enable or disable that. Shutter, auto exposure lock button, I leave it on 0. I leave this on normal, set center autofocus point. Yep, I leave that. And number 7 is pretty important, which is release shutter without lens. This is for changing and adapting different lenses. I enable that just to be safe. I may have mentioned this in a previous video, I don't remember, but be sure to enable this. This is custom function number 7, enable. Let's go back to the main menu. Clear settings, you can remove everything and I think set it back to default if you want. If you need to like start over and readjust your menu settings, go for it. But that's pretty much everything in the central menu of the Canon EOS M. Hope this helped you guys. These are just the settings that I use. It's totally up to you how you want to configure your camera. What matters is that you're comfortable using it and it gives you the type of video or pictures that you want to get out of it. So that being said, hope this video helped you guys and I will see you next time. Feel free to leave questions in the comments. Also be sure to answer each other's questions because that helps me as well. A lot of you guys have given me some really helpful advice in the comments and that helps me become more knowledgeable too. So talk with each other and help each other out as well. But thanks for watching guys and I'll see you in the next video.